You have 1 hour to pack up whatever you can carry and get out. The babies, too. Don't leave a mess behind. Those words still ring in my ears every time I sip coffee in my Ocean View estate, watching the sun rise over the waves. The woman who spat them, my husband's sister, now floods my inbox with pleas for reconciliation, for a handout, for a scrap of what she thinks she deserves. The thing about testing people's true colors is that it's never as satisfying as you imagine. When you're stripped bare of the life you built, when those closest turn into strangers overnight, exposing their masks leaves you wiser, but the scars linger. What makes it all worthwhile, though, is the unbreakable resolve you unearth in that isolation. That's the real fortune no one can take. Hello, my dearest viewers. I hope you're holding up okay out there, whether you're navigating your own heartaches or just scrolling through a quiet moment. Fair warning, this tale might stir something deep for you. It's about realizing that the ones who share your table can be the quickest to flip it over when the stakes change. If this grips you so far, smash that subscribe button and like this video. I drop resilience tales weekly, and trust me, the close packs a punch. Comment below where you're tuning from, and have you ever unmasked someone's core in chaos? Those stories? They're gold. They remind us we're not alone in the mess. So sit tight and make sure you stay till the end, because the ending will surprise you. My name is Jania Hastrup, and this is how I went from a heartbroken widow, clutching my twin infants outside a sprawling mansion in the dead of night, to the one calling the shots on that mansion and an empire worth far more. It's about the evening I learned that shared blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, and sometimes the family of your soulmate is the first to slam the door when they're gone. Imagine it, a woman in a rumpled black blouse, tears mixing with the rain on her face, standing on stone steps with 2 6-month-old babies wailing in her arms as her late husband's relatives toss her suitcases like trash into the driveway. That was me just months ago. What they had no clue about was that I held the secret to a legacy they assumed was theirs alone. But before we dive into that empowering turnaround, let me take you back to the start, because the origins will show you exactly why the fallout felt so brutally fitting. It was 5 years ago, a crisp October morning in Boston, the kind where the fall leaves crunch underfoot and the air bites just enough to keep you sharp. I'd flown in for the annual Tech Innovators Summit, my first big conference as a project coordinator for this upstart marketing firm out of Atlanta. We were a scrappy crew, underfunded and overambitious, pitching our souls out for a shot at partnering with the heavy hitters. Me? I was the glue. 28 years old, fresh-faced with dreams bigger than my bank account, juggling slide decks and coffee runs like they were Olympic events. I'd grown up in a modest brick house in southwest Atlanta, the daughter of a schoolteacher mom and a mechanic dad who fixed cars by day and read engineering books by night. They drilled it into me. Work twice as hard, smile 3 times as wide, and never let him see you sweat. College on scholarships, a starter job that paid the rent but not much else, and now this, standing in a sea of lanyards and logos, feeling like the only one without a trust fund safety net. The conference hall was a whirlwind. Sleek booths hawking AI gadgets, panels buzzing with venture capitalists in bespoke suits, and that undercurrent hum of networking deals being whispered over overpriced lattes. I was stationed at our booth, demoing our pitch on digital campaigns for underrepresented founders. Ironic, since our team was mostly white guys from Ivy Leagues who diversified by hiring me last. My laptop bag had seen better days. Frayed straps, a zipper that stuck like it was auditioning for a horror flick. I was mid-presentation to a cluster of mid-level execs when it finally gave up the ghost, snapping open and spilling cables, notes, and my half-eaten granola bar across the carpeted floor. "Shoot," I muttered, dropping to my knees to scramble it all up, cheeks burning under the fluorescent lights. That's when he appeared. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that effortless confidence that doesn't shout but commands anyway. Sandy hair tousled just so, a navy button-down rolled to the elbows revealing forearms tanned from weekend sales, or whatever rich folks do. He crouched down without a word, handing me a coiled charger with a half-smile that crinkled the corners of his blue eyes. "Looks like your bag's plotting a mutiny. Need a hand?" I glanced up, expecting the usual pitying nod from a passerby, but his gaze held steady. No judgment. Just genuine curiosity. Yeah. Thanks. It's been fighting me since O'Hare." We laughed, a quick, easy thing that cut through the awkwardness, and before I knew it, he was helping me repack, tossing in a joke about how his first briefcase had exploded during a board pitch. Turns out, he wasn't just any exec. Daniel Hastrup, CEO of Hastrup Dynamics, the Silicon Valley behemoth behind half the cloud software keeping the world's data afloat. His name alone could clear a room or fill one, depending on the stakes. But in that moment, kneeling on the convention floor amid my chaos, he was just Daniel, the guy who stayed to chat about my pitch, who asked real questions about scaling for minority-led startups, who admitted his own early days hustling code in a garage while his family footed the Ivy League bill. We talked for what felt like minutes but stretched into 2 hours. Over lukewarm coffee from the vendor cart, he shared stories of his first flop, app that crashed spectacularly at launch, and I opened up about Atlanta's startup scene, the barriers that felt like invisible walls for folks who didn't look like the default avatar. "It's not just code," I said, stirring my cup. "It's who gets the mic." He nodded, leaning in. "Exactly. And right now, too many voices are muted. Tell me more about your angle. How do we amplify without tokenizing?" It wasn't flirtation, not at first. It was connection, the kind that sparks when someone sees your fire and fans it instead of dousing it. By the time the panel bells rang, he'd slipped me his card, not the fancy embossed one, but a scribbled note with his personal cell. "In case your bag stages a full revolt. Or, if you want to grab dinner and brainstorm more." Dinner turned into a week. Boston streets became our canvas. Cobblestone walks under gas lamps, hole-in-the-wall soul food spots where I introduced him to collards that don't come from a can, late-night debates in his hotel suite overlooking the harbor about ethics in tech, how algorithms could either bridge divides or widen them. He was white, polished, from that old money vein where summers meant the Hamptons and winters meant Aspen, his family's fortune woven into the fabric of East Coast elites. I was black, ambitious, raised on hand-me-downs and handshakes, where success meant proving you belonged at every table. The differences hit like aftershocks. His casual mentions of the family jet made me blink, while my tales of block parties and church fish fries had him wide-eyed, hungry for details. "Your world sounds alive," he'd say, tracing patterns on the tablecloth. "Mine's all marble floors and mandatory galas, beautiful but cold." Society noticed quick. Whispers followed us like shadows. At the conference after-parties, eyes lingered on the mismatch, the tech titan with the exotic consultant. Online forums buzzed before we even made it official. Hastrup's midlife charity case, one troll posted. Another. She's got that glow-up vibe, but let's see if it sticks. I laughed it off at first, but it stung. The assumption that my hustle was a hustle for his wallet, that our spark was a phase for his progressive resume. Daniel shut it down every time. They don't get it, he'd murmur, pulling me close during a harbor cruise we'd snuck away on. You're not my project. You're my equal, the one who challenges me to build better, not just bigger. That night, under a blanket of stars, he kissed me for the first time. Slow, sure, like he'd been waiting his whole life. And just like that, the unlikely became inevitable. Back in Atlanta, the romance bloomed fierce and fast. Weekend flights turned into him relocating half his team east for market expansion, code for being near me. We'd steal days in my tiny apartment, cooking gumbo from my mom's recipe. He burned a roux twice but nailed the spice. Or escaping to the Georgia coast for sunsets where he'd sketch up ideas on napkins while I sketched our future. He proposed 6 months in, on a rainy afternoon in Piedmont Park. No flash, just a simple band he'd had engraved with Amplify Together, dropped to one knee amid the downpour, grinning like a fool. Jania, you make my world louder, brighter. Marry me? Let's rewrite the rules side by side. Tears mixed with rain on my cheeks as I said yes. It felt like defying gravity. But love like ours? It drew fire. The Hastrup family entered the picture like a storm cloud on the horizon. Daniel had warned me they were traditional, code for set in their ways, protective of the lineage that traced back to railroad barons and Wall Street whispers. His mother, Eleanor, was the matriarch, mid-60s, silver-streaked bob, always in cashmere that whispered privilege. She hosted the first Meet the Family dinner at their sprawling estate in Greenwich, manicured lawns rolling to Long Island Sound, crystal decanters gleaming like accusations. I arrived in my best sheath dress, nerves buzzing, armed with stories of my folks' legacy of quiet grit. Eleanor greeted me with their kisses that didn't land, her smile a porcelain mask. Jania, darling. How vibrant. Daniel's told us all about your work. So commendable. Uplifting those less fortunate. The subtext landed like a featherlight slap. Less fortunate. As if my Atlanta roots were a charity case. Miranda, his younger sister by 5 years, was there too, sharp as a stiletto, with honey blonde highlights and a laugh that tinkled like breaking glass. She worked in the family's venture arm, scouting deals for blue-chip startups, and eyed me over her wine flute like I was a risky investment. So, Jania, she drawled during appetizers, Daniel says you're from the South. Atlanta must be such an adventure. All that energy, the culture. Do you miss the authenticity down there? The table chuckled politely, but her eyes said, You don't belong at this one. I smiled through it, sharing a light anecdote about my dad's garage wisdom, but inside, doubt flickered. Were they warming up or just tolerating? The resistance simmered subtle at first, then scalded. Engagement photos? Eleanor suggested a neutral photographer to capture the family aesthetic. Translation: tone down my curls, up the pearls. Holiday gatherings brought the whispers, aunts murmuring about cultural adjustments over eggnog, uncles probing my background with questions that skirted too close to, "Where exactly are you from?" Miranda was the boldest, cornering me at a spring brunch in the Hamptons. "Look, Jania, we adore Daniel. But this life? It's a machine, reputations, alliances. You're so independent. It's brave, really. Just hope you're ready for the polish." Brave. Independent. Code for outsider. Gold digger in waiting. The racism wasn't always overt, no slurs. Just the slow drip of microaggressions, invitations that forgot to include plus ones for my friends, comments on how Daniel was finding himself through me, as if our love was his midlife detour. I confided in Daniel one night, curled on his couch in his Boston Pied Terra, the city lights flickering like distant fireflies. "They look at me like I'm borrowing your life," I whispered, tracing the engraving on my ring. His face hardened, that protective fire igniting. "Then they're blind, baby. You're not borrowing, you're building it with me. And if they can't see that, they don't get a vote." He pulled me closer, his voice a vow. "I promise, Jania. I'll shield you from the noise. We're a team. Your fire, my foundation. No one touches that." True to his word, he set boundaries. Fewer family events unless I wanted them. Open calls with Eleanor where he'd gently but firmly redirect her barbs. "Mom, Jania's contributions to the firm are game-changing. Let's celebrate that, not question it." It worked, sort of. They dialed back the overt digs, but the chill lingered, a frost that never fully thawed. Our wedding was our rebellion wrapped in joy. Small, intentional. 50 guests on a bluff overlooking the Atlantic, wildflowers instead of orchids, my mom's quilt as the aisle runner. I walked down in ivory lace that hugged my curves, curls crowned with seashells, Daniel waiting in linen that matched the waves. Vows exchanged with the ocean crushing approval, promises of equity, of amplifying each other, of facing storms hand in hand. "You taught me home isn't a place," he said, voice thick. "It's you." We danced under string lights to a playlist blending R&B and indie folk, my Atlanta cousins rubbing elbows with his wary relatives. Eleanor toasted to new chapters, her smile tight. Miranda clinked glasses a beat too late. But in Daniel's arms, spinning to the rhythm of our laughter, it didn't matter. We were unbreakable. Married life? A revelation. We split time between Boston's buzz and Atlanta's soul, his high-rise overlooking the harbor, my family's backyard barbecues where he learned to flip burgers without singeing his brows. He dove into my world, volunteering at a tech literacy program for Black youth, where he'd fumble VR headsets and earn giggles from the kids. "See? Even CEO's trip," he'd quip, and I'd swell with pride at how he listened, adapted, amplified. Our home became a haven, walls lined with photos of us mid-laugh, shelves mixing his first edition codexes with my mom's well-thumbed Maya Angelou. Intimacy was easy, electric, lazy Sundays tangled in sheets, debating everything from quantum ethics to the perfect gumbo roux. He never made my background a footnote. If anything, he celebrated it, commissioning a custom portrait of my parents for our mantel. "They built you fierce," he'd say, kissing my temple. "And fierce is what I need." The family frostbite persisted, though. Eleanor's check-ins veered into unsolicited advice. "Darling, perhaps a stylist for the next gala?" To blend seamlessly. Miranda's texts dripped passive aggression. Heard you're hosting that community event. Adorable. Justin's shirt aligns with the brand. Whispers at board dinners. Daniel's gone native. One uncle joked, earning Eleanor's forced laugh. I swallowed it for peace, telling myself love would melt the ice. Daniel buffered, fierce as a lion, canceling trips when slight surfaced, pulling Miranda aside after a particularly cutting remark about my roots holding us back. She's my wife, not a debate topic. Cross that line again and you're out. It bought us space, but the undercurrent hummed. Doubts about my motives, fears I'd dilute the Hastrop line. Then came the twins. We talked kids early. His dream of little ones carrying our blended spark, my hope of a legacy defying the odds. Conception was a whirlwind. Late nights charting cycles, him reading every book on Black maternal health after I shared stats that chilled us both. When the test blinked positive, 2 lines, then an ultrasound revealing 2 heartbeats, we collapsed in joyful sobs on the bathroom floor. Our double trouble. He grinned, hands splayed over my still flat belly. Pregnancy wasn't easy. Morning sickness that sidelined me for weeks, doctor's visits where he grilled every specialist on equity and care. He rearranged his schedule, no more red ice, delegates for the Tokyo launch. You're carrying our world, he'd say, rubbing my feet after long days. Rest. I've got the empire. Ava and Aiden arrived at 36 weeks, a scheduled C-section under Boston's best lights. Chaos and wonder. Her first cry sharp as a declaration, his a soft rumble like thunder. Tiny fists waving, skin a warm caramel glow, curls already hinting at wild. Daniel cut the cords with trembling hands, tears streaming as the nurse placed them on my chest. Look what we made, he whispered, voice breaking. Perfect. Just like you. Those first days blurred into bliss. Our brownstone nursery painted in soft sages and golds, Daniel mastering the Moby rap while pacing investor calls. He'd wake for the 2 a.m. feeds, cooing, "Hey, little boss," to Aiden, tickling Ava's toes till she gurgled. We'd collapse together at dawn, twins nestled between us, his arm anchoring our cocoon. This, he'd murmur into my hair, this is legacy, not boardrooms. Us. Yet even in that glow, the family chill seeped in. Eleanor's visits were perfunctory, coos over the babies laced with they'll need the right schools, of course, ones that prepare for our circles. Miranda sent monogrammed bibs with Hastrop crests, no mention of my surname. A holiday photo op? She suggested toning down the twins' ethnic outfits for the family album. Daniel shut it down, they're perfect as is. But the barbs lingered, planting seeds of isolation. I'd catch myself wondering, will they ever see me as more than the other? But Daniel's warmth drowned it out, his lullabies in that gravelly baritone, our midnight dances with a baby on each hip, the way he'd beam at me across a room like I hung the moon. Looking back, that contrast was our quiet war. The hearth of our home, crackling with laughter and late-night whispers against the Hastrop frost, a glacial entitlement that viewed warmth as weakness. Daniel knew it gnawed at me. One evening, as we rocked the twins in the glider he'd built himself, cedar beams sanded smooth by his own hands, he pulled me onto his lap. They'll come around or they won't. But promise me something? His eyes serious now. If anything happens to me, you fight for this. For you, for them. Don't let anyone dim your light. I laughed it off then, kissing his jaw. Nothing's happening to you, Mr. Indestructible. But yeah, I promise. Little did I know, he was already forging that promise into steel. Quiet meetings with lawyers, assets shuffled into shadows, a fortress for the family he cherished most. Those early years? They were our golden haze, unscripted joy amid the gathering clouds. But as the twins hit 3 months, cooing and rolling on playmats strewn with his discarded ties, the first real crack showed. A family brunch where Miranda jokingly quizzed me on prenup regrets. Eleanor's offhand, "You two make such an interesting pair," after seeing us chase the babies in the garden. Daniel fielded it all, his loyalty a shield. Yet in quiet moments, doubt whispered, "How long before the cold seeps in?" We'd soon find out, because bliss, as I learned, is fragile when it's built on borrowed ground. 1 minute, you're dancing with your husband in a sun-dappled kitchen, twins giggling at your feet. The next, the world tilts, and everything you thought was solid crumbles to ash. Daniel's heart attack didn't just steal him from me. It ripped the veil off, exposing the fault lines I'd pretended weren't there. And nowhere did those cracks show clearer than at his funeral. Dear viewers, if you're still with me, hit that heart or share this with someone who needs a reminder that grief isn't just loss, it's revelation. What's the hardest mask you've ever had to watch fall? Share your story in the comments. Your stories keep me going. Let's lean on each other. It was a Thursday in late spring, the air thick with that deceptive New England warmth that promises renewal but delivers rain instead. Daniel had collapsed during a routine strategy session at his Boston office, mid-sentence about a new AI ethics initiative, the one he'd roped me into brainstorming over breakfast that morning. "We'll change the game, Yanni," he'd said, kissing my forehead as he left, Ava on his hip babbling like a secret code. The call came at 11:42 p.m., shattering the quiet nursery where I'd been rocking the twins to a playlist of his favorite soul tracks. "Mrs. Hastrup? I'm so sorry. We did everything we could." The words blurred into white noise, my phone slipping from numb fingers as Aiden's cry pierced the fog. I scooped him up, then Ava, holding them like anchors as sobs racked me silent and savage. 45 years old.
Gone.
Just like that. No warning, no goodbye, no chance to say how his light had rewritten my every shadow. The days blurred into a haze of arrangements, a mechanical march through the unthinkable. Daniel's team handled the logistics with the precision he'd drilled into them. Private jet from Atlanta to Boston, a fleet of black SUVs ferrying us to the family estate. I barely registered the opulence. The marble-floored foyer echoing with my heels, the staff murmuring condolences in hushed tones. Eleanor arrived the next morning, sweeping in like a force of nature, her black Chanel suit impeccable, silver hair coiled tight. "Darling," she enveloped me in a perfume-scented hug that felt more like a performance than comfort. "We'll manage this." "For Daniel." Miranda followed, her eyes red-rimmed but makeup flawless, pulling me into a side embrace while scanning the room like inventory. "He'd wanted dignified," she murmured. Dignified. As if grief came in tears, ours somehow elevated by their standards. The funeral itself was a spectacle, the kind only old money can orchestrate, a pageant of power and pretense that turned mourning into a boardroom merger. St. Paul's Cathedral in downtown Boston, its Gothic spires clawing at the gray sky, hosted the service. Hundreds packed the pews, tech titans in tailored Tom Fords, politicians with practiced somberness, venture capitalists who'd once vied for Daniel's handshake like it was the golden ticket. The air hummed with low murmurs and the scent of lilies, hundreds of them, white and waxy, banked around the mahogany casket like silent sentinels. I sat in the front row, Ava and Aiden in matching black smocks on my lap, their tiny hands clutching my pearls as if sensing the void. The priest's eulogy droned on about Daniel's visionary spirit, his unwavering commitment to progress, but my mind wandered to stolen fragments, the way he'd hum, "Ain't no mountain high enough," off-key while folding laundry, the crinkle of his eyes when Ava first smiled, the quiet vow he'd whispered during our last ultrasound. "We've got this, team." Always. Grief hit in waves, crashing over me mid-vow recitation. One moment, I was nodding along to a colleague's tribute, stories of Daniel's mentorship, late nights coding for good. The next, a sob clawed up my throat, raw and unbidden. Aiden fussed, twisting in my arms, his wail echoing off the vaulted ceilings like an accusation. Heads turned, subtle but sharp. The pitying glances from the back rows, the hurried shushes from ushers. Eleanor leaned in, her hand cool on my knee. "Breathe, Jania. Strength now." Strength. As if my unraveling was a flaw in the production. I bit my lip till it bled, forcing composure for the twins, for the man who'd hate seeing me shrink. But beneath the vice of sorrow, unease stirred, a prickling awareness that the Hastrup's grief felt, curated. Miranda's whispers to her husband during the hymns, heads bent too close. Eleanor's nods to a cluster of lawyers in the third row, their briefcases like briefcases of bad news. They played their parts flawlessly, dabbing silk handkerchiefs, accepting condolences with regal poise. But their eyes? They slid past me, appraising, calculating. Like I was a line item in the obituary, not the widow holding his children. The procession to the gravesite amplified it all. A cortege of gleaming Lincolns snaked through manicured lanes to Mount Auburn Cemetery, where ancient oaks draped the path like mourning veils. Daniel's plot overlooked the Charles River, a spot he'd chosen years back for its view of the future, he joked. We gathered under a canopy as rain pattered tentative, the officiant reciting psalms while a string quartet sawed at Amazing Grace. Elites milled in clusters, a senator clasping Eleanor's hand with murmured regrets, a Silicon Valley oracle recounting Daniel's legacy-defining pivot to a rapt audience. I stood apart, twins heavy in my arms, the weight of their warmth the only tether to reality. Ava gnawed on my shoulder, damp from the mist. Aiden's lashes fluttered against my neck, oblivious to the theater. Whispers filtered through the drizzle. Tragic, so young. The family's handling it with such grace. Grace. I wanted to scream. Grace for whom? For the boardroom ghosts or the woman left piecing a shattered life. That's when the first real shadow fell. As the casket lowered, polished oak etched with our initials, a nod to that park proposal, I caught it. Miranda, arm-linked with her husband, murmuring to Eleanor under the canopy's edge. "We need to take care of the situation, Mother. Swiftly, before it complicates things." Eleanor's nod was crisp, her gaze flicking to me, brief, assessing, before returning to the grave. "Take care of the situation." The words snagged like thorns, irrational in my fog but insistent. Situation? What, me? The twins? Daniel's absence was the situation, the gaping maw swallowing us whole. I chalked it to paranoia, grief's cruel distortion, but it lodged deep, a splinter under my skin. Around us, the elites dispersed with air-kissed farewells, umbrellas blooming like black flowers, their limos purring away to brunches and buyouts. We lingered, me tracing the headstone's fresh engraving, beloved husband, father, visionary, until Eleanor touched my elbow. The reception awaits, dear. Daniel would insist on closure. Closure. As if love lowered into earth could be neatly capped. The drive back to the Hastrop mansion was a funeral in slow motion, black sedans gliding through Cambridge's leafy veins, rain sheeting the windows like tears we couldn't shed. The estate loomed as we approached, a Georgian behemoth of white clapboard and black shutters, sprawling over acres of emerald lawn that swept to the sound. I'd always felt like a guest here, even after years of holidays. The grand foyer with its crystal chandelier dripping light like liquid diamonds, the mahogany-paneled drawing room where deals were sealed over brandy. Today, it swallowed us whole. Staff in crisp uniforms ferried trays of canapes, caviar blinis, foie gras toasts, as guests trickled in, 200 strong, a who's who of legacy and lucre. Crystal flutes chimed. Low laughter undercut the strings quartet's somber cello. I changed in the East Wing guest suite, trading my sodden dress for a simple black sheath, pinning my curls into a low chignon that trembled at the edges. The twins, mercifully, napped in the nursery upstairs, tended by a discreet nanny Eleanor had arranged. For your sake, darling, she'd said. For whose sake? But exhaustion muted protest. I descended alone, a ghost in my own elegy. The reception unfolded like a high-stakes gala with grief as the dress code. Clusters formed in the solarium, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the stormy bay, where waiters circulated shrimp cocktails and vintage champagne. Eulogies morphed into anecdotes, a VC regaling how Daniel spotted my pitch in a sea of noise, a cousin toasting his unflinching drive. I moved through it numb, accepting hugs that smelled of Chanel and cigar smoke, murmuring thank you, till the words tasted like ash. Eleanor held court near the fireplace, her laughter a practiced trill as she fielded sympathies. He was our rock, she'd say, dabbing an eye that stayed dry. Miranda circulated with predatory grace, her red-soled heels clicking like countdowns, collecting business cards amid condolences. Devastating, she'd sigh to a tech heiress, but legacies endure. Endure for whom? My unease crested around the third flute of untouched bubbly. I'd slipped to the powder room, needing a breath, a mirror to confirm I still existed, when I overheard them. The hallway alcove, velvet-draped and dimly lit, carried voices like smoke, Miranda's, sharp and conspiratorial, laced with Eleanor's measured bass. The situation must be contained, Miranda. The trusts, the shares, Daniel's personal assets could upend everything if she contests. Miranda scoff, she won't. No resources, no spine. We frame it as compassion, offer a settlement, ease her out quietly. The twins? We'll handle that separately. Grandchildren of the Hastrop name can't be raised in uncertainty. Eleanor's pause then. Agreed. Consult Harlan first thing. No loose ends. Loose ends.
Me.
The twins. Our life, reduced to a footnote in their ledger. I pressed against the wall, heart hammering, the cool silk of the drapes grounding me as nausea roiled. Contests? Settlements? Daniel had promised protection, whispered it in the dark, hand on my belly, but this was predation, cloaked in crepe. I stumbled back to the solarium, face schooled to neutral, but the mask cracked. A distant cousin cornered me by the dessert table. Petit fours arranged like tiny tombstones, probing gently. How are you holding up, Jania? The family's rallied around you, I see. Rallied. I forced a smile, the kind that hid teeth. As best I can, one breath at a time. But inside, fury flickered, hot and unfamiliar. Who were they to handle us? Daniel's blood ran in Ava and Aiden's veins, his laugh in their gurgles, his curiosity in their wide eyes. Yet here, amid the silver and sorrow, we were interlopers, to be managed like a bad merger. The confrontation brewed slow, then erupted in the library, an oak-paneled sanctum where Daniel and I had once stolen kisses during tense holidays. Guests had thinned, the quartet packing cellos, when Eleanor summoned us. A family huddle, she called it, her voice brooking no delay. Miranda, her husband Harlan, the merger shark, a smattering of uncles and me, flanked by the twins now awake and fussy in my arms. The fire crackled low, casting long shadows that danced like accusations. I settled on the leather Chesterfield, Aiden on one knee, Ava on the other, their warmth a fragile shield. We must discuss practicalities, Eleanor began, perching on the settee like a queen. Her eyes, steel gray, fixed on me. Daniel's passing leaves arrangements. Arrangements. The word hung, heavy as the rain lashing the windows. Harlan cleared his throat, adjusting his cufflinks, gold hastrups mocking now. The estate is complex, Jania. Family trusts, irrevocable holdings. Not everything flows to a surviving spouse seamlessly. Seamlessly. As if our marriage was a clause, not a covenant. I shifted, Ava's head lolling against my shoulder, her sigh a tiny protest. I don't follow. Daniel and I shared everything. The brownstone, the accounts, he made sure of it. My voice wobbled, grief's edge sharpening to desperation. Miranda leaned forward, her smile a scalpel. Shared, yes. But this house? The core assets? Hastrup domain, always has been. With Daniel gone, it reverts. You understand, legacy preservation. Preservation. The room spun, the fire's heat suffocating. This wasn't our home? The place where we'd hosted the twins' first Christmas, where Daniel taught me chess on rainy afternoons. Reverts to what? I pressed, voice rising despite the twins' stirrings. We're family. Ava, Aiden, they're his blood. Eleanor's hand fluttered, a dismissal. Of course, dear. And we'll provide, generously, a trust for the children, perhaps a modest settlement for you. But residency here? Untenable. Optics, logistics. You'll need time to readjust. Readjust. To what? My old life, pre-Daniel, scraping by in Atlanta's grind. Aiden whimpered, sensing the storm, and I rocked him instinctively, tears pricking hot. Miranda delivered the killing blow, rising with that predatory poise, her voice honey over venom. Let's be clear, Jania. You have 1 hour to pack up whatever you can carry and get out. The babies too. Don't leave a mess behind. The words landed like a gut punch, cold and clipped, final as a gavel. 1 hour. In the living room I'd once strung with twinkling lights for the twins' first holiday, where Daniel and I had slow danced to Coltrane after guests left. Out. As if we were vagrants, not the heart he'd chosen. The room blurred, Ava's cry piercing, Uncle's averting eyes, Harlan's scribbling notes like it was a closing. This can't be real. I choked, clutching the twins tighter, their small bodies my only solid. Daniel would never. He promised protection, a future here. Eleanor's sigh was theatrical. Daniel's promises were heartfelt, but reality intrudes. We're sparing you scandal, dear. Courts, contests messy for all. Take the offer. Start fresh. Fresh. Stripped bare. That's what it meant. Widow, broke, black mother in a world that already stacked the deck. My entire life, the vows, the laughter, the nursery murals Daniel painted with goofy elephants, evaporated in their gaze. I felt it then, visceral, the stripping away, not just walls or wealth, but dignity, belonging. The woman who'd amplified boardrooms, birthed miracles, loved fiercely, reduced to a complication, a situation to contain. Rage simmered under the grief, a spark in the void. But with the twins wailing, their tiny fists pounding my chest like heartbeats, fight fractured. I need air, I gasped, rising on unsteady legs. Miranda's smirk flickered, victory premature. Compose yourself. Harlan will draft the papers by morning. I fled upstairs, twins in tow, the mansion's grandeur mocking my flight, gilt mirrors reflecting a fractured me, Persian rugs muffling my sobs. In the nursery, our nursery, walls still echoing Daniel's off-key, twinkle, twinkle, I collapsed into the glider, nursing Ava through tears while Aiden gummed my necklace. The rain hammered now, a dirge against the panes. How had it come to this? The family who'd tolerated me now erased us, their compassion a cage. But in that rock a whisper stirred, not defeat, but defiance. Daniel's words, from a lifetime ago, fight for this. Don't let them dim you. I wouldn't. Not yet. The will loomed, his secret a shadow weapon. They thought me broken, penniless. Let them. I'd play the part, test the depths of their rot. Because true masks fall in the quiet after the curtain, and mine? It was just rising. If you've ever stared down the barrel of a fresh betrayal, feeling the ground shift under your feet, know this. It's in those hollow hours that you find your footing again. Share in the comments if you've been there. What kept you standing? Your truths fuel mine. Let's keep unraveling this together. The hour Miranda decreed came too soon, a thief in the dim pre-dawn. I'd barely slept, snatches of fitful dozing in the glider, Ava's soft breaths against my chest, Aiden's tiny snores sinking with the rain's relentless patter. The nursery, once a sanctuary of pastel walls and Daniel's hand-scrawled growth charts, now felt like a crime scene, crib mobiles swaying like pendulums of regret, the changing tables still dusted with baby powder from his last diaper run. I moved like a shadow, folding onesies into the 2 battered suitcases, mine from Atlanta days, reinforced with duct tape and memories. One for me, a few blouses, jeans worn soft from wear, the ivory lace from our wedding tucked like a talisman at the bottom. The other for the twins, stacks of diapers pilfered from the nursery stock, a bottle warmer I'd smuggled from the kitchen, their favorite loveys, a floppy-eared bunny for Ava, a crinkly giraffe for Aiden. No room for the elephant mobile or the framed ultrasound pics. Those stayed. Ghosts in the machine. Downstairs, the mansion slumbered under its weight of wealth. Chandeliers dimmed to embers, Persian rugs muffling the ghosts of laughter that no longer echoed. Eleanor had generously arranged a car service, a sleek black town car idling in the drive like a hearse redux. Harlan stood sentinel at the door, tablet in hand, scrolling what looked like asset spreadsheets. "We've wired a modest advance, 20,000, he said, not meeting my eyes, voice flat as a balance sheet. For immediate needs. The formal settlement docs will follow. 20,000. A fortune to some, a pittance against the life Daniel and I had woven. Our brownstone equity, joint ventures, the nest egg we'd squirreled for the twins' futures. But I nodded, throat tight. Signing the NDA, he thrust forward with a pen that felt like lead. Non-disclosure on family matters, he explained. Keeps things tidy. Tidy. As if our unraveling was a stain to bleach. Miranda materialized from the shadows, arms crossed in her silk robe, hair somehow perfect at 4 a.m., driver knows the route to a decent hotel downtown. Don't dawdle, Jania. The staff starts at 6. Her eyes flicked to the suitcases, a smirk ghosting her lips. Travelite HM? Fitting. Fitting. The word clawed at me, the same one she'd tossed at brunches, implying my casual style didn't match their gloss. I bit back the retort, scooping Aiden into his carrier with one arm, Ava in the other, their warmth the only rebellion I could muster. We'll manage, I said, voice steady as borrowed steel. She waved a manicured hand, already turning away. Of course you will. Chin up for the children. For the children. As if evicting their grandchildren from their birthright was benevolence. The car door clicked shut like a vault ceiling, the mansion receding in the rear view, a white whale swallowed by fog. I cradled the twins on the leather seat, their carriers wedged between suitcases, the driver's partition up like a wall of indifference. Boston streets unspooled in grayscale, sodium lamps pooling yellow on wet pavement, the harbor a black smudge under sodium skies. Ava stirred, rooting against my shoulder with a mew. Aiden's thumb found his mouth, sucking in rhythmic comfort. I unzipped my blouse right there, nursing them in tandem as the miles ticked, exposed, unashamed, a mother's quiet defiance. The advance Harlan mentioned? It burned in my pocketbook app, a digital Band-Aid on a gaping wound. Daniel's secret, the $400 million fortress he'd built in shadows, hummed unspoken. A loaded gun I kept holstered. Not yet. Let them believe me broken, beggared. Truth has sharper teeth when bared slowly. The driver dropped us at the Beacon Hill Inn, a decent mid-tier spot with valet parking and a lobby that smelled of stale potpourri. Check-in blurred. The clerk's sympathetic coo over the widow special rate, a bellhop wrestling our scant luggage to room 312. It was a shoebox, queen bed sagging under a floral duvet, a crib on request that creaked like old bones, a bathroom with tiles chipped at the edges. No view, just a brick wall mocking the mansion's sprawl. I tipped the boy with a crumpled 10 from my wallet, Daniel's habit of crisp bills absent now, and bolted the door, collapsing against it as the twins' fussing crescendoed. "Show my loves," I whispered, laying them on the bed amid rumpled pillows. The room spun, beige walls closing in, the hum of the mini-fridge a dirge.
Home gone.
In 1 hour, as decreed. Night bled into a ritual of survival. I unpacked the diaper bag first. Formula scoops measured by the motel's complimentary teaspoon, bottles warmed in a sink of hot tap that sputtered brown. Ava latched fierce, her gulps urgent as if sensing scarcity. Aiden nursed slower, eyes locked on mine like a pact. We formed a tangle on the duvet, me cross-legged, them propped on nursing pillows scavenged from the suitcase, the TV flickering mute infomercials for miracle blenders. Feeding them wasn't just sustenance, it was sacrament, a thread to Daniel's midnight bottles, his goofy faces that coaxed burps like applause. But here, in this fluorescent limbo, tears traced silent paths down my cheeks, dripping onto Ava's curls. "Your daddy's watching," I murmured, voice cracking. "He'd hate this linoleum hell. But we've got each other, yeah?" They didn't answer, of course. Too young for words, too pure for the poison I'd swallowed. Yet their breaths, synced in sleep, whispered back, "We do." Dawn cracked gray through the blinds, pulling me from a doze haunted by Daniel's laugh. The twins slept, limbs akimbo like starfish claiming the bed, their lashes fanning cheeks still flushed from feeding. I slipped to the bathroom, locking the door against my unraveling. The mirror showed a stranger, eyes puffy as overripe peaches, curls frizzed into a halo of defeat, the black sheath wrinkled into surrender. I stripped it off, stepping under the shower's tepid spray. Motel water pressure a pathetic dribble, soap a generic bar that lathered thin. Water mixed with sobs, guttural and unchecked, as the weight crashed, alone. Utterly, cosmically alone. No Daniel to towel me dry with his oversized chambray, no nursery hum of white noise machines. Just me, 33 and widowed, with 2 souls depending on a woman who'd just been declared disposable. Drying off, I calculated in the steam-fogged mirror, pencil and motel notepad my tools. Savings, $18,000 pre-wedding, untouched in a high-yield account Daniel had set up. "For your dreams, not ours," he'd insisted. Post-twins, we dipped for maternity leave gaps, leaving $12,500. Harlan's advance, $20,000, minus the $500 room deposit, the $200 Uber runs to pharmacies for formula refills. Monthly burn, $1,200 rent if I sublet a 1-bed in Dorchester. Craigslist ad screamed, "No pets, no drama." Irony bitter as black coffee. Diapers, $80 a month. Formula $150. Groceries $400 with thrift store hacks. Childcare? Non-existent on a widow's dime. Nanny started at $25 per hour, twins doubling that to impossible. 6 months, tops, before the math turned red. 6 months to claw back a job. Project coordinator gigs paid $65,000, but maternity gaps and recent bereavement on resumes? Red flags waving. I scribbled furiously, numbers blurring through fresh tears. Breathe, Daniel's ghost urged. One step. But the ledger lied cold, cast out with nothing, the Hastrup's generosity, a noose disguised as rope. Loneliness settled like fog after that first dawn, thick and choking. My parents, gone a decade now, car wreck on I-85 when I was 23, their laughter still echoing in Atlanta church basements and backyard swings. Mom's hugs, scented with lavender and lesson plans. Dad's calloused hands fixing my first bike, preaching, resilient like kudzu, baby girl. I'd scattered their ashes under Georgia pines, vowing to carry their fire solo. But solo in triumph is one thing. Solo in shatter? It hollowed me. I'd call my auntie in Decatur some nights, voicemail piling like unanswered prayers. Just checking in, TT. Twins are growing, wish you could see. She'd text back delayed, buried in nurse shifts. Praying for you, niece. God got you. God, and what else? Friends from startup days ghosted post-wedding. Congrats on the upgrade. Now silent, their Insta feeds blooming with baby showers and brunches I wasn't tagged in. One, Lena from the conference circuit, ventured a pity DM. Heard about Daniel. You okay? Need anything? I typed back holding up. Thanks, deleting the plea for a couch, a cry, a witness. Pride? Or fear they'd see the unstable, the whispers were already painting. Because the Hastrups didn't stop at eviction, they weaponized words, a whisper campaign as surgical as their boardroom coups. It started subtle. A week in, scrolling LinkedIn from the motel's wobbly desk, I spotted it. A post from a Hastrup Dynamics exec. Tough week honoring Daniel's legacy. Families stepping up amid personal challenges. Resilience defines us. Comments flooded. Thoughts with you all. Strength in unity. Unity. Excluding me, the personal challenge. Then the society pages. Boston Globe's social column. A glossy spread on the Hastrup legacy endures. Eleanor at a gala. Arm in arm with Miranda. Caption gushing poise in profound loss as the matriarch and heiress rally for the future. No mention of the widow, the twins, erased, or worse, implied as the profound burden. I laughed, bitter, scrolling deeper. Anonymous forums on tech Reddit, threads titled Hastrup Heir's Sudden Exit. What's the tea? Posters speculated. Heard the wife was a climber. Good riddance. Unstable after the kids. Family had to intervene. Unstable. The word slithered. Miranda's venom distilled. It hit in real life soon after. Grocery run to the Star Market down the block. Twins in a double stroller I'd bought secondhand on Facebook Marketplace. $75 haggling for wheels that wobbled. The cashier, a middle-aged white woman with a Hastrup donor pin on her smock, their foundation sponsored local food drives, rang up my generic formula and off-brand wipes. Sorry for your loss, she said, eyes flicking to the twins. Saw it in the papers. Tough break. Tough break. As if widowhood was a fender bender. I nodded, swiping my card, balance dipping to $19,200, and murmured thanks. Outside, a cluster of women by the carts, yoga moms from the elite suburbs, paused their chat, stares lingering. One, blonde and Lululemon-clad, leaned to her friend. That's her, right? The one they say, well, you know, after the accident. Accident? Heart attack, I wanted to snap. And what do they say? But I pushed on, cheeks burning. Aiden's babble the only armor. The whispers metastasized. A job interview via Zoom. Junior PM role at a fintech startup, salary scraping $55,000. The recruiter, polished in her headset, smiled tight. Impressive resume, Jania. But recent life changes? We're a fast-paced team. Need stability. Stability. Code for heard you're a mess. I pitched my post-maternity vision. Hybrid remote, leveraging Daniel's network ethically, but her eyes glazed. We'll circle back. They didn't. Then the mail, a certified letter from Harlan's firm, settlement proposal, $150,000 lump, monthly stipend of $5,000 for child support facilitation in exchange for waiving claims on family enterprises. Facilitation. As if Aiden and Ava were projects, not people. Attached, a psych eval referral, recommended for grief processing. Grief processing. Or ammunition for their unstable narrative. Society's tendrils tightened. A former colleague emailed, "Coffee? Heard you're navigating rough waters. The Hastrups mentioned you might need support." Support. From the Vipers? I declined, but the isolation gnawed deeper. Nights in the motel, twins down by 8 p.m. after baths in the sink, no tub, just a plastic bin from Dollar Tree. I'd scroll old texts. Daniel's miss you already from Tokyo layovers. Mom's proud of my girl from graduation. Loneliness wasn't empty. It was echo chamber, amplifying every what if. What if I'd fought harder at the reception? What if the whisper stuck, branding me the gold-digging widow who only wanted money? Daniel's family painted me as the opportunist, black ambition twisted into avarice, my love a ladder to their ladder. Online sleuths dug. My modest pre-Daniel Insta, captioned hustle hard, love soft twisted into calculated glow-up. A gossip blog snippet. Sources close to the family say Hastrup's widow struggled with postpartum. Tragic, but necessary steps taken. Necessary. For their empire, not my existence. Rock bottom came week 3, a Thursday mimicking the attack's date. Twins teething in tandem. Gums red, cries a duet of despair. Formula ran low. I stretched it with water, rationing like wartime. Bills piled. $1,800 room tab looming, $300 in medical copays for Ava's ear tug. I paced the room's 5 steps. Aiden slung in the Moby against my chest. Ava in the stroller circling like a shark. Phone buzzed. A blocked number voicemail. Miranda's voice. Silk over steel. Jania, be reasonable. The offer stands, but delay invites complications. Think of the children. Call Harlan. Complications. CPS? Courts? The threat hung, unspoken but ironclad. I deleted it, sinking to the carpet. Twins' warmth my confessor. What now? I whispered to their downy heads. Ava's hand patted my cheek, gummy and sure. Aiden's sigh feathered my collarbone. In that press of small miracles, the seed cracked open, not vengeance, but vigilance. Resilience isn't born in blaze. It roots in the rot. I decided then, cross-legged on threadbare Berber, calculator forgotten, endure. Silence as strategy, the inheritance my hidden blade. Let them whisper unstable, money grubber. It'd sharpen my edge. Daniel's $400 million wasn't just cash. It was his foresight, funneled into trusts ironclad as his vows, personal assets, offshore shells, controlling shares he'd vested solely in me months before the attack. For if, he'd said cryptically over wine one night, "You're the legacy, Jay, not the name," I'd keep it buried, play the pauper widow, watch the masks molt. Who'd step up in the shadows? Auntie's delayed calls? Lena's pity pings? Or the unexpected, like the barista who comped my coffee after overhearing widow in my call? Seeds of strength. Tally every slight, nurture every kindness. The Hastrups wanted me small. I'd grow vast in secret. By month's end, I'd sublet a Dorchester walk-up, $1, 100 for 2 beds, peeling paint, but a park view where twins could crawl on grass, not carpet. Job hunt pivoted. Freelance gigs on Upwork, $20 per hour editing pitches, enough for formula and pride. Whispers? I armored with earbuds, playlists of Nina Simone's snarling feeling good. Loneliness lingered, a companion now, but not conqueror. Nights, as I journaled by nightlight, day 28, Aiden rolled over. Ava's first tooth. We endured, the vow solidified. Silence wasn't surrender, it was survey. Who treated me right when the world saw rags? That was the true audit, Daniel's final lesson etched in fortune. Dawn broke fuller those days, light slanting through thrift store curtains. The twins babbled brighter, my steps sure.
Cast out? Yes.
But from nothing, empires rise. And mine? It was stirring. If you've ever clawed your way through a season where every shadow hit a snake, drop that in the comments. What whisper cut deepest? And how did you silence it? Your battles light my path. Let's keep sharing the scars that make us shine. The walk-up in Dorchester wasn't the mansion's marble halls, but it had bones, creaky hardwood floors that groaned like old friends, a fire escape overlooking a patch of green where squirrels chased tails in the October chill. I'd furnished it piecemeal, a second-hand crib from a church sale, wedged into the alcove bedroom, a futon for me in the living room, doubling as a play mat for tummy time. The kitchenette boasted a hot plate and a microwave that hummed like a distant train, but it was ours. Paid in freelance gigs I snatched between nap schedules, editing marketing decks for startups who didn't ask about my gap. Ava and Aiden thrived in the chaos. Her first crawl across the rug, chasing a dust bunny like treasure, his gummy grin at the ceiling fan's whirl, as if it spun secrets just for him. Mornings, I'd brew cheap coffee in a French press Daniel had gifted. For your writer's soul, he'd teased, sipping while they cooed from the crib. Resilience wasn't glamour, it was routine, the quiet grind of diaper changes and deadline dashes. But the Hastrups? They weren't done grinding me down. What started as whispers swelled into a storm, enemies cloaked in concern, circling like vultures on a thermal. It hit on a Tuesday, 3 weeks into our exile, the air crisp with that New England bite that promised winter's teeth. I'd just wrapped a Zoom call, pitching a social media strategy to a wellness app, twins miraculously quiet in their bouncers, when the buzzer rasped like an accusation. Delivery for Jania Hastrup. The intercom crackled. Not a package, a process server. Suit rumpled from the tea ride, thrusting a manila envelope into my hands with a mumbled, "You've been served."
Served.
The word landed like a slap, echoing Miranda's eviction snarl. I signed the clipboard numb. Door clicking shut as Ava's babble turned fussy. Heart hammering, I tore the seal in the kitchenette, papers spilling onto the counter amid sippy cups and half-eaten Cheerios. The header screamed, "Emergency petition for custody and guardianship. Filed by Eleanor and Miranda Hastrop, through Harlan's firm, the legalese a labyrinth of cruelty." Petitioners assert that respondent Jania Hastrop is unfit to provide stable care for minors Ava and Aiden Hastrop, aged 6 months. Evidence includes financial instability, emotional volatility post-bereavement, and inadequate living conditions. Unfit. The word clawed my gut, twisting like a knife. Attachments piled, affidavits from witnesses. A former nanny swearing I'd snapped during a teething night a lie. She'd quit over Eleanor's micromanaging. Bank statements leaked showing my depleted savings. How? Photos of our Dorchester stoop captioned substandard environment for Hastrop heirs.
Heirs.
As if my babies were assets, not the hearts beating against mine. The petition demanded temporary custody for the children's welfare, with a hearing in 2 weeks. Proper Hastrops. Miranda's scrawl in the margins mocked. Proper. Whitewashed, wealthy, without their black mother's instability. Panic surged, a tidal wave crashing over the fragile dam I'd built. I sank to the linoleum, envelope crumpling in my fists, breath shallow and ragged. Lose them? Ava's dimpled knees kicking during bath time, Aiden's fist wrapped around my pinky like a vow. The thought gutted me. Visions flashed, CPS vans pulling up, strangers scooping my babies into sterile arms, Eleanor in her cashmere, rocking them in the mansion nursery while Miranda cooed Grandma Knows Best, me, hollowed, fighting in some fluorescent courtroom where money bought justice. No, I gasped, the word a mantra against the bile rising. I crawled to the crib, lifting Ava first, her weight a lifeline, her scent of baby lotion and milk grounding me. Aiden next, bundled against my chest, their tandem heartbeats syncing with my erratic one. "Mama's got you," I whispered, rocking in the shaft of light from the window. But doubt whispered back, "Do you?" With whispers turning to warrants. The petition's clause dug deep, respondents' modest background ill-equipped for elite upbringing. Modest. Code for black, for Atlanta grit over Greenwich gloss. They weren't just taking my home, they aimed for my core. The afternoon blurred into a frenzy of calls. My old firm's HR. "Sorry, Jania, maternity leave expired. No rehire slots." A legal aid hotline. Custody cases? We're booked. Try pro bono clinics, but waits are months. Anti-indicator. Voicemail again, her shift swallowing my plea. Loneliness amplified the terror, the Dorchester walls closing like a vice. By evening, twins fed and down, pureed carrots staining their bibs like war paint. I paced the 5-step circuit, kitchen to futon to fire escape, mind racing. Daniel's secret loomed, a $400 million bulwark, but unleashing it now? Premature. Let the enemies reveal themselves fuller. Endurance was my edge. But panic gnawed. What if the hearing stripped me bare before I struck? Enter Marcus, the ghost from pre-Daniel days, resurfacing like a bad penny in the storm. We'd dated in Atlanta. High school sweethearts turned college flames. Him a smooth-talking accountant with dreams of his own firm. Me the ambitious coordinator pulling all-nighters. It ended amicably. Him wanting settled, me chasing horizons. You're too much fire, Jay, he'd said at the breakup, kissing my cheek. I need steady. Steady meant safe. I'd found Blaze with Daniel. His DM slid in that night, post-petition haze. Heard about D. Devastated for you. Twins?
Wow.
Coffee? Let's catch up, help if I can.
Help.
The word dangled like bait. I hesitated, friends distant, family ghosts, but curiosity or desperation won. We met at a Roxbury cafe the next day, twins in the double stroller, me in jeans and a hoodie that hid the shadows under my eyes. Marcus looked the same, tall, dark-skinned with a fade sharp as his suits, gold watch flashing under cuffs. Jania, he enveloped me in a hug scented with cologne I'd forgotten, eyes soft on the twins. They're beautiful. His eyes, your spirit. We settled at a corner table, lattes steaming as Ava gummed a teether. He listened, nodded through my edited tale. Eviction, whispers, the petition's fresh wound. Those rich folks, he shook his head, sipping black coffee. Always knew they'd toss you when it suited. I'm here now. What do you need? Place to crash? I've got a spare room in Quincy. Nice yard for the kids. Savior mode. His voice warm, hand brushing mine in comfort. But unease prickled. His gaze lingered on my bare ring finger, the twins' designer bibs. You holding funds okay? Funerals hit hard. Let me spot you for daycare, get you back working. Spot me. The offer fell off, a hook in the honey. We talked an hour. His firm thriving, single life, lonely, regrets over us. Should have fought harder for you, Jay. Now, with them. He nodded at Aiden, cooing in the stroller. I could step up, be that steady hand.
Steady.
Echoes of our split, but laced now with calculation. I probed gentle. Appreciate it, Marcus. But I'm managing, freelance pays the bills. His smile tightened. Managing? In that walk-up? Come on, those babies deserve better. Daniel's insurance? Settlements? You fighting for what's yours. There, the glint, eyes sharpening on settlements. I deflected. It's complicated. Family stuff. He leaned in, voice dropping. Complicated's my jam. Accounts, assets. Let me peek at the papers, maybe spot loopholes. For old times. Or new angles. The reveal cracked over dessert, stale muffins he insisted on buying. Look, Jay, real talk. You were always the prize.
Now?
Widow with twins, Hastrup name? That's leverage. Play it right, we team up, I handle the money side, you the mom gig. Split the windfall fare. Windfall. The word slithered, his mask slipping to greed. He assumed me destitute, the inheritance a myth or mine to share. Windfall. I echoed, voice ice. Daniel's death isn't a lottery, Marcus. And my kids, not bargaining chips. He backpedaled, palms up. Whoa, just helping. You know I care, always did. But reality? Single mom, no net? You need a partner.
Me. Partner.
In profit, not love. I stood, stroller wheels scraping. Thanks for the coffee. But we're good. His parting shot as I pushed out. Call when you wise up, Jay. Opportunities don't wait. Opportunities. Him. Eyeing my vulnerability like a merger. Another enemy unmasked, old flame turned opportunist, drawn by whispers of weakness. The campaign intensified post-Marcus, a symphony of sabotage that turned isolation to siege. Whispers evolved, a concerned email from Lena, the conference pal. Jay, heard you're spiraling, postpartum plus grief. The Hastrups mentioned therapy. Let me know if you need Rex. Pity you pushed everyone away.
Pity.
As if I'd pushed, they'd fled at the first whiff of scandal. Friends abandoned en masse. Group chats went silent. Invites dried like autumn leaves. A former coworker's LinkedIn comment on my profile update, wishing you well in tough times, heard the marriage was strained. Stay strong. Strained. Lies seeded by Miranda's machine, painting me manipulative, the stressor that drove Daniel to early grave. Online it festered, tech blogs hinting Hastrup widow's woes. Instability amid inheritance drama? Comments piled. Gold digger got what she chased, now playing victim. Manipulative much? Twins as pawns, shame. Strangers morphed to judges, DMs flooding with advice. Give up the kids. They deserve better. Better. White. Wealthy, without my modest taint. Tension built brick by brick, cornering me in the Dorchester nest. Groceries. Stares at the checkout, a woman muttering. That's her. The one the family's fighting. Playgroup at the park. Moms clustering away, whispers of unfit, drifting on the breeze. Even the building super, fixing a leaky faucet. Heard you're in a bind. Rich in-laws? Must be nice.
Nice.
The irony burned. Freelance dried. Clients ghosting mid-project. Restructuring. Excuses thin as tissue. By week 5, savings dipped to $16,000, the petition hearing looming like a guillotine. Panic revisited nightly. Twins asleep in their crib, now shared for warmth, the heat sputtering. Me on the futon scrolling horrors, CPS horror stories, custody battles where money trumped motherhood. Utterly cornered. No allies. Whispers a cacophony. Marcus's offer. A siren call I deleted daily. Yield? The word tempted in the witching hours. Eleanor's settlement of velvet trap. Sign away rights for peace. But refusal rooted deep. A vine in cracked concrete. Daniel's echo. Fight, Jay. Your fire's the legacy. I yielded not. Hoarded the secret. Tallied the traitors. Marcus?
Checked.
Lena? Ghosted. The park moms?
Pity parade.
Tension peaked one storm-lashed night. Ava feverish from teething, Aiden colicky, my phone buzzing Harlan's final offer. I rocked them through sobs, the rain a mirror to my torrent. Not taking you, I vowed to their damp curls. Cornered?
Yes.
But corners sharpen claws. The hearing neared. My silence sharpened too. Enemies disguised? Unmasked one by one. And me? Yielding? Never. The empire stirred fiercer. In the quiet after the storm, twins finally settling into a fretful sleep, rain easing to a drizzle against the fire escape, I felt it. Not just survival, but strategy. Enemies unmasked meant allies could emerge from the fog if I kept my eyes open. If you've ever found a lighthouse in the pitch black, someone who showed up without fanfare or fine print, share it below. What made them your anchor? Those stories? They're the glue that holds us when the world frays. Let's keep building bridges in the comments. The custody petition hung like a guillotine blade those weeks, its shadow sharpening every decision, every dollar scraped from freelance scraps. Dorchester's rhythm became my metronome. Dawn walks to the corner bodega for off-brand oats, afternoon Zooms muted by Aiden's teething wails, evenings journaling by the thrift lamp's glow. Day 42. Ava said, "Mama," clear as bells. Whispers louder, but we're louder. Marcus's texts piled unread, Lena's pity pings deleted. The Hastrup's final offer sat unopened on the counter, a paper serpent coiled to strike. I fielded pro bono consults from overwhelmed clinics, lawyers harried, calendars crammed, each advising settle or fight dirty.
Fight.
Daniel's word, etched in my marrow. But alone? The weight bowed me. No village, just me and my miracles, rationing resilience like the last of the formula. Until Clara. She slipped into my orbit unannounced, a Tuesday in mid-November, the air frosting windows like breath on glass. I'd just wrangled the twins into high chairs scavenged from a Craigslist curb alert, splattered with pureed peas, their giggles a brief sunbreak, when the buzzer hummed.
Jania?
It's Clara from Daniel's office. Can I come up?
Clara.
The name tugged a thread. Daniel's executive secretary for 8 years, a fixture in his Boston suite, mid-50s, salt and pepper bob, voice like warm gravel from years of wrangling CEOs. She'd handled his calendar with the precision of a surgeon, slipping me notes during visits. Lunch at 1? He's cleared it for us. I'd liked her. Quiet competence. No airs. But we'd never bonded beyond polite waves. Post-Daniel, she'd sent a card, generic sympathy in neat cursive. Why now? The door creaked open to her. Bundled in a wool peacoat dusted with city slush, arms laden with canvas totes that steamed with promise. Brought reinforcements, she said, no preamble, stepping over the threshold like she'd mapped it in her mind. Her eyes, hazel, sharp behind wire rims, swept the space, futon unmade, dishes stacked in the sink, twins' toys a colorful minefield. No judgment, just a soft cozy. Smells like home. Home. The word landed soft, a balm on raw edges. She unpacked on the counter. Tupperware of lasagna bubbling from a church potluck she'd swiped extra. Bags of frozen peas and chicken breasts from her freezer purge. Even a stack of bibs embroidered with silly rhymes. Spill happens, giggle on. Figured you could use a hand. Twins are a tag team, aren't they? Ava banged her spoon in applause. Aiden reached a chubby fist toward the bounty, cooing approval. I stood frozen, toad in hand, throat tight with the unfamiliar, kindness without caveat. Clara, you didn't have to. This is too much. She waved it off, rolling up sleeves to reveal forearms etched with faded tattoos, roses and anchors, stories untold. Hush. Daniel'd haunt me if I didn't. He talked about you all the time. My Jay, the firecracker, said you'd light up any room, even on rainy days. Firecracker, his nickname, whispered in hotel lobbies when deals dragged. Tears pricked. I blinked them back, busying with plates. We ate cross-legged on the rug, lasagna molten and meaty, greens crisp from her garden plot, twins smeared but sated in their chairs. Clara didn't pry, just shared slices, her divorce a decade back, raising a son solo on admin pay, Daniel's quirks, like hiding jelly beans in his desk for emergency morale. He was good people, she said, fork pausing.
Saw you really saw.
That's rare.
Rare.
In the Hastrup's glare? Mythical. That first visit stretched hours, Clara morphing from guest to garrison. When Aidan fussed post-meal, gums aching, a fresh tooth plotting breakout, she scooped him without ask, pacing the fire escape with a bounce honed from years of colic vigils. "Breathe, Mama," she murmured over his shoulder, free hand squeezing mine. Ava, sensing the shift, toddled her way, first steps tentative, a week old, tumbling into Clara's lap for a story from a dog-eared board book she'd packed, The Little Engine That Could. "I think I can," Clara chugged in a silly voice, twins wrapped, me sinking onto the futon with a sigh that emptied a lung. Babysitting wasn't duty, it was gift, her watching them nap while I showered hot for the first time in days, water sluicing guilt and grime. Emerging, towel-turbaned, I found her folding laundry. My bras and their onesies, no fuss, just efficiency. "Go on, tackle that email backlog. I've got the fort." Unexpected ally? Understatement. Clara became rhythm. Tuesdays and Thursdays, post her half-day at a temp gig, she'd quit Hastrup Dynamics on principle after the funeral, citing toxic air. She'd arrive with totes, casseroles rotated, tuna noodle Mondays, veggie enchiladas Wednesdays, diapers bulk bought from warehouse clubs, even a second-hand rocker glider squeezed through the door. "My son's old, yours now." Babysitting bloomed organic, an hour stretching to 3, her reading Goodnight Moon in dialects that cracked us up, twins mesmerized by her finger puppet rabbits. "They've got a spark," she'd say, tickling Aidan's belly till he dissolved in belly laughs. Reassurance wove through. Over chamomile tea, her thermos staple, she'd lean in, eyes steady. "You're not alone, Jania. Not even close. Broke or not, you're building something fierce. Daniel be proud. Hell, I am."
Broke.
She believed the whispers, the walk-up's thrift, my frayed hems, yet it changed nothing. No pity lectures, no, let me spot you with strings. Just presence, a listening ear for petition rants, a shoulder for the sobs that ambushed during bottle feeds. Clara's loyalty shone stark against the Hastrup's cruelty, a lantern to their storm. Where Eleanor's generosity came laced with ledgers, 20 grand wired, then clawed back in fees for estate processing, Clara's gifts multiplied without tally. Miranda's whispers painted me unstable, a black widow unraveling. Clara countered with calls to her network, pro bono shrinks who specialized in grief, not gotchas. The family evicted us in an hour, suitcases mocking on the drive. Clara stayed till midnight once, scrubbing the kitchenette after a twin's cold turned it to war zone, humming gospel hymns that soothed like balm. "They threw you out like yesterday's news," she said one night, wiping counters side by side, Aidan asleep on her back in the carrier. "But you're tomorrow's headline watch."
Headline.
Not manipulative gold digger, but mother maker. Her faith in my broke facade? It armored me. If a stranger saw strength in scraps, what empires could I claim unseen? Reflections deepened in the rocker she'd gifted, twins dozing against me. The cities hum a lullaby below. Clara's shine wasn't flash, it was forged fire, tempered by her own scars. Divorced at 38, son with dyslexia she'd tutored through nights, Passed over for promotions at Hastrup for not fitting the profile. Code for Midwestern roots, no pedigree. Learned quick. Loyalty ain't blood or bank, she'd say, braiding my curls one evening while Ava helped with plastic clips. It's showing up when the shine's off. Shine off. The Hastrups demanded polish, pearls, pedigrees, my modest erased or exile. Clara embraced the raw, my stretch-marked belly in tank tops, the twins' midnight wails, my rants on racial barbs masked as concern. Her contrast? A mirror to the cruelty I'd swallowed. Eleanor's air kisses hiding audits of my suitability. Miranda's corrections for the twins' upbringing. Clara didn't correct, she celebrated. Look at that grip on Aiden, future climber, that one. Takes after you. Those evenings with her stirred parallels, pulling me back to Daniel's final months, a season of subtle shifts I'd mistaken for routine. It started subtle, spring of last year, his checkups ramping, a cardiologist on speed dial after a twinge during a merger pitch. Stress, the doc chalked, prescribing statins and Sabbaths. But Daniel? He pivoted quiet, like a captain charting storms unseen. Mornings, he'd linger in the kitchen longer, pouring my coffee 2 sugar strong, tracing my knuckles as Ava gummed toast. You're my north, Jay, he'd murmur, eyes distant. No matter the weather. I'd laugh, chalking it to fatigue. He'd pull me close, breath warm on my temple. Promise you'll hold the wheel if I falter.
For them.
For us. Falter. A word too light for the shadow crossing his face. The Rearites began in whispers, late May, after a board dinner where Miranda's barbs flew. Daniel, darling, Jania's input on the diversity fund? So authentic. Authentic. Code for outsider. He'd deflected with charm, but home. Over scotch in the study, his jaw set. They're circling love. Always have. But I won't let them touch you. Touch. Not just slights, but safeguards. Next week, a nondescript envelope arrived. Harlan's firm, but routed private, no family CC. Estate planning, Daniel explained, casual as checking the mail. Just tidying loose ends. Trusts for the twins, life insurance bump. I nodded, folding laundry on the couch, twins napping in slings. But his eyes held mine, serious under the casual. And for you, everything personal. Separate from the Hastrup web. No strings, no reversals.
Separate.
The word hummed then, a seed I didn't water. His ventures, the app royalties from that garage code empire he'd built pre-family fold-in, funneled to shells I'd never heard of. Why now? I asked, folding a onesie midair. He knelt, hands on my knees, voice low. Because I see them, Jay. The way they look at you, like you're a phase, not forever. If I'm not here to shield, you need armor. Full control. Promise me, you'll wield it wise.
Wise.
The confiding deepened over summer. Walks in the common, twins in tandem carriers, him pausing mid-stride to jot notes on his phone. Memo for Reyes, he'd say, the lawyer's name new to me. Reyes, a sharp-suited shark from a boutique firm in Cambridge, no Hastrup ties, specializing in high-net individuals seeking autonomy. Meetings happened in coffee shops, not boardrooms. Daniel slipping out for client lunches, returning with folders tucked under his arm. One night, post-bedtime ritual, his turn for stories, voices for the very hungry caterpillar that left us in stitches. He spread docs on the kitchen island, wills crisp as new bills, trusts layered like onion skins. Read this, he urged, highlighter marking clauses. The numbers blurred, $400 million, personal fortune amassed from side hustles, patents, a quiet VC fund for underrepresented founders, my influence woven in. All yours, irrevocable. Controlling interests in dynamic subsidiaries. Enough to steer, not sink.
Steer.
Not just money. Power, the kind that bought board seats, silenced lights. I'd trace the pages, ink fresh. This is fortress level, D. Why the shadows? He pulled me onto his lap, the island's edge digging my hip, his chin on my shoulder. Because shadows hide strength. They think the empire's theirs, generational trusts, Harlan's web. But this, it's ours. Yours. If they push, and they will love, you don't bend. You build. Protect the twins, chase your dreams, make them rue underestimating the woman who lit my world.
Rue.
The word fierce, his grip tightening as if warding fate. I'd kissed him then, slow and sure, tasting salt of unspoken fears. You're not going anywhere, I whispered. But if, I'll wield it for us. He nodded, folding the docs into a safe I didn't know existed, behind the nursery bookshelf. Combo, our anniversary. Airtight, J. Reyes dotted every I. Irrevocable beneficiaries, no clawbacks, even anti-contest clauses. They challenge, it boomerangs. Boomerangs. Justice, not just jackpots. Those memories paralleled now. Clara's lasagna cooling on the counter as she hummed to the twins, her presence an echo of his quiet builds. Daniel's final months weren't decline, they were design. Checkups masking strategy sessions, twinges fueling fortitude. He'd confided piecemeal, over park benches or post-love sunsets. Eleanor's calls? Probing assets. Miranda's advice? Testing fractures.
Testing.
He'd seen the cruelty brewing, subtle audits at holidays, whispers of prenups in hindsight, and countered with steel. Trusts nested in Delaware shells, documents notarized in triplicate, a letter sealed for if, tucked with the will. Read it last, he'd instructed, kissing the envelope. It's my why for you, the fire that thawed my frost.
Frost.
The Hastrup's legacy, glacial and grasping. Clara's warmth, a counterpoint to his hidden heat. Seeds of the secret bloomed fuller in Clara's light. She believed me broke, saw the walk-ups patches, my freelance hustle. But her actions? Unshaken. Money's paper, she'd say, unpacking apples from her tote. People are the print. Print. Like the docs Daniel left. Not just $400 million in liquid assets, stocks in green tech, royalties from his ethics AI patent, but architecture, airtight trusts for the twins' education, full rides to any Ivy or HBCU my choice, a revocable living trust for our brownstone, reclaimed post-probate, and the crown. A pour-over will funneling everything personal to me, with poison pill clauses.
Challenge it?
The empire splintered, shares diluted, foundations defunded. He built a moat. I'd murmur to Clara one night, her babysitting the twins while I pored over a pro bono brief. She paused, stacking blocks into towers. Moats keep out wolves. You've got 'em circling?
Wolves.
Hastrups, Marcus, whispers. I nodded, vague, secret still holstered. But I've got walls too.
Walls.
Daniel's gift. Legal labyrinths. Reyes on retainer. Clara's alliance deepened the seeds, her stories mirroring his confidences, loyalty a lens sharpening the secret's edge. One babysit stretched late, twins down early after her puppet show, me tackling a pitched deck on the futon. She brewed tea, settling with a sigh. Daniel confided in me, you know. Not the big stuff, but the heart. Said you were his reset, the one who made boardrooms bearable. Reset. Echoes of his whispers. You protect me from the frost, Jay. Frost he'd foreseen, fortressing against. Her tales wove parallels, him slipping her bonuses for the boys' college, quiet acts eclipsing family fanfare. The Hastrups? Flashy donors, but stingy souls, she said, stirring honey. Gave to galas, not people. Daniel? Different breed. Protected in the rearite, his foundation spun off, independent, with me as silent steward, millions for black-led startups, the underrepresented he'd amplified through me. Reflections on her shine versus their cruelty crystallized in small sacraments, Clara's casseroles versus Eleanor's advances with strings, her lullabies versus Miranda's custody clause. The Hastrup's cruelty was calculated, petitions painting me unfit, whispers eroding my edges. Yet Clara's loyalty? Organic, oblivious to my arsenal. You're tougher than you know, she'd say, braiding my hair post-shower, twins monitor crackling soft breaths. Tougher. Daniel's echo. Wield it wise. The secret seeds, trusts airtight as his hugs, docks a dam against their flood, germinated in her light. Not just money, empowerment, the kind that rebuilt from ruins. By December's cusp, Clara's visits were vain. Weekly grocery co-ops, her son tagging along with Legos for the twins. Family's what you forge, she'd quip, Aiden on her hip.
Forge.
Like Daniel's final forge, rearites in Rhea's office, him pacing, confiding. They'll test her, Clara. Armored her why.
Why?
Me, the twins are blended blaze. Hidden strengths, Clara's a loyal few amid the many. The secrets, a fortress for the fight ahead. Enemies circled? Let them. With anchors like her and armaments like his, I'd hold. The cusp of December brought a deceptive calm to the Dorchester walk-up, the kind that lulls you before the gale. Snow dusted the fire escape like powdered sugar on a bitter pill, and the twins embraced the cold with wide-eyed wonder, Ava pressing her palm to the frosted window, leaving tiny prints that melted slow, Aiden bundling in the blanket fort we'd built from Clara's donated quilts, his laughter bubbling like a brook under ice. Clara's rhythm had solidified, her potluck halls now winter-proofed with hearty stews, her babysitting sessions stretching into evenings where she'd teach me crochet, for the quiet hours when the mind races, the twins dozing to the click of needles. Freelance held steady, a $400 contract for a nonprofit's email campaign, enough to stock the pantry with holiday treats like peppermint teething biscuits. The petition hearing loomed, a week away, Rhea's number a silent promise on my phone. I'd rehearse my defenses in the mirror. Stable, capable, loving. See the proofs. But the Hastrups? They were content with court. They craved immediate devastation, escalating their assault with the precision of a boardroom takeover. It began with the whispers morphing to warnings. A voicemail from the pro bono clinic. Heads up, DCF report filed. Get ready. DCF. The acronym hit like a gut punch. Memories of online horror stories flooding. Families fractured on anonymous tips. Mothers labeled unfit on fabricated faults. The Hastrups had filed, accusing me of instability, a calculated cruelty that twisted my grief into grounds for grand theft parenthood. The report, as I pieced from later leaks, Rhea's network whispering back, was a masterpiece of malice. Complainants cite widows' emotional volatility, financial precariousness, and substandard living as imminent risk to minors. Volatility. My tears at the funeral, reframed as breakdown. Precariousness. My freelance hustle spun as poverty. Substandard. The walk-up's charm cast as squalor. Affidavits stacked like dominoes. The ex-nanny's perjury, paid, no doubt, with Hastrup hush money, neighbor concerns, planted by Miranda spies. Even Marcus's statement, his greed turning Judas, claiming I'd confessed instability over coffee. They'd escalated, not waiting for court, summoning CPS to snatch the twins temporarily. A preemptive strike to safeguard the heirs from their mother's chaos. The accusations' roots ran deep, their cruelty a generational vine. Eleanor's concern calls to social services, Miranda's anonymous, tip laced with racial undercurrents, my modest background code for unfit, my black resilience recast as rage. Instability. Postpartum blues amplified by bereavement. My Atlanta grit twisted into erratic urban influence. They'd filed to destroy, stripping me before the hearing, ensuring the twins landed in their lap. Mansion nursery prepped, proper, nannies on standby. The escalation wasn't just legal, it was legacy, erasing Daniel's choice, repainting me as the manipulative interloper who drove him to early grave. The confrontation slammed on a Friday, snow swirling like confetti in a tragedy. I'd just wrapped a freelance call, pitching a branding revamp to a startup, twins napping in their pen amid the alcove's soft light, when the buzzer pierced the peace. DCF. Open up, Mrs. Hastrup. My heart stuttered, the hotlines warning a ghost too late. Through the peephole, a trio, lead worker in a parka, clipboard clutched, her partner with a tablet, eyes scanning the hall. A uniformed cop, badge shining like a threat under the bulb. Panic flared, hot and helpless, but I breathed, one breath, Jay, and opened, the warmth of the space clashing with their chill. Welfare check, the lead announced, 40-ish with a bun tight as her tone, ID flashing Kayla Torres. Report of risk to minors. Mind if we enter? Enter. Invasion by invitation. I nodded, ushering them to the futon, boots tracking melt on the rug. The room's details screamed back, high chairs gleaming from morning wipe down, toys organized in crates, the crib sheets fresh from laundry, Clara's tip, lavender spray for calm. But their eyes hunted flaws, the bill stack on the desk, the Windows draft seal tape peeling at edges. Anonymous concern, Torres explained, pen poised. Instability allegations, emotional, financial, environment. Allegations. The Hastrup script, delivered state-sanctioned. I countered. We're fine. Income proofs here, doctor notes there. I pulled folders. Immunizations up to date. growth percentiles high, freelance invoices a testament to tenacity. But the partner, Jenna Elias, per her tag, knelt by the pen, voice cooed. Sweeties, all okay? The twins stirred, Ava rubbing eyes, Aiden's lip quivering at the strangers. The officer loomed, radio static, a low growl. Torres questions drilled. Support system? Clara, I said, her visits, her aid. Finances. Freelance, savings redacted, but solid. But Elias noted. Stairs unsecured? No gate. The walk-up's flight, a hazard in their ledger. Tension coiled as Ava whimpered, reaching through bars. Aiden's coo turned cry. May we interact? Torres asked, stepping to the alcove. I nodded, heart a hammer, lifting Ava, her weight a shield, Aiden in the other arm. Their cries synced, a duet of distress as Elias reached. Just a check. Confrontation tensed. Torres radioing supervisor en route for assessment. The officer blocking the door like a barricade. Evidence suggests risk, Torres intoned. Temporary removal may be necessary. Family placement pending. Removal. The word shattered me. Visions assaulting. Vans screeching up. Strangers bundling my babies. Eleanor's arms claiming what was mine. Panic crested, knees weakening as I clutched them tighter. Their tears hot, bodies rigid in terror. No, I gasped, backing to the wall, the alcove spinning. Crumbling emotionally, belief buckled. They'd succeed, destroying me utterly, widow to wreck, mother to myth. Please, I begged, voice raw, officers advancing. Ava's wail peaked, fists pounding. Aiden sobs a siren, his face buried in my neck. Don't separate us. They're my everything. Everything. The Hastrups win, my unraveling climax, begging broken as Elias extended hands. Hand them over, ma'am. For safety. But in the fracture, foreshadow, Reyes. Phone fumbled from pocket, dial desperate. Speaker blaring. CPS at door, help. His voice sliced. Put them on. Torres took it, brow furrowing. Reyes. Counsel for Hastrup. Cease. Docs incoming. Rights protected.
Docs.
Daniel's legacy. Trusts airtight. Orders sealing custody. Affidavits proving stability. Irrevocable violation risk suit. The room halted. Officer retreating. Torres checking fax app. Confirmation received. Deferred. They backed off, door shutting on review pending. The crumble lingered, but rights held, foreshadowing the flip. I held the twins, breath sinking, the fortress stirring. If you've ever stared down the barrel of a moment where everything hangs by a thread, one word, one document, one unyielding breath away from shatter or salvation, tell me in the comments, what was your stand? The line you drew that changed the game? Those stories? They're the blueprints for our comebacks. Let's blueprint this one together as the showdown unfolds. The CPS standoff left scars that didn't fade with the footprints melting on the rug, shadows under my eyes like bruises, a flinch at every buzzer buzz. The twins cling tighter than before. Ava would wake from naps with a whimper, fist curled in my shirt as if afraid I'd vanish. Aiden's babble turned tentative, his eyes searching mine during feeds like a pact renewed. I rocked them through those nights on Clara's gifted glider, the creak a metronome to my whispers. Mom is here. Always. The walk-up felt smaller, besieged. Every creak in the pipes a phantom knock, every shadow on the fire escape a specter of suits and clipboards. Clara ramped her rhythm. Daily check-ins now, her stews swapped for comfort bakes, apple crisps dusted with cinnamon, evoking Daniel's fall pies, her babysitting a lifeline as I pored over Rhea's emailed briefs. "You're a warrior, Jania," she'd say, braiding my curls while Aiden helped with plastic combs. They poked the mama bear. Now watch her roar.
Roar.
The word warmed, but fear chilled. The hearing was 5 days out, Christmas Eve a cruel calendar joke, and the Hastrup's escalation hung like tinsel on a gallows. Prep became ritual, a war room in the alcove, Daniel's hidden drive, retrieved from our brownstone storage, Rhea's discreet key, spilling docs like secrets unearthed, trust ledgers crisp, while codicils layered like armor plating. I'd spread them on the futon by lamplight, twins dozing in the pen, highlighter tracing clauses. Sole beneficiary, Jania Hastrup, irrevocable transfer of personal estate exceeding $400 million, inclusive of subsidiary controls and guardianship mandates. Guardianship. The crown jewel, anti-interference riders, preemptive filings naming me unchallenged custodian, with clawback penalties for frivolous contests, that'd bleed their trusts dry. Reyes coached via encrypted calls. They'll come aggressive, paint you desperate, unstable. Hold till the read. Then unleash. Unleash. The secret simmered, a storm bottled, my silence the cork. But doubt nipped. What if they bought the judge? Buried the will in legalese fog? Clara countered with tea and tales. My ex tried that. Courts for custody. I stood, showed my receipts.
You?
You've got receipts and a river of gold behind him. Gold. Daniel's river, flowing unseen. The build-up dragged taut. The city's holiday hum a mocking backdrop. Carols piping from corner Santas, lights twinkling on Tremont Street like false stars. Whispers amplified, the Hastrup's confidence leaking like champagne fizz. A concerned call from Lena, thawed by pity. Jay, the family's saying you're unraveling. Therapy? For the kids. Unraveling. Their narrative, scripted in society salons. Then the leak, a tech gossip pod, Hastrup air hunt. Widow's woes tip scales. Anonymous sources gloating. She'll fold. Always did under pressure. The twins need proper care.
Fold.
Like at brunches where Miranda's barbs landed, me smiling through slights. Like holidays where Eleanor's suggestions silenced my input. Mockery behind backs. I caught it piecemeal, Clara's network whispering back. Eleanor at a gala, toasting resolutions over caviar. Poor Jania over her head. We'll handle the darlings, of course. Handle. As if Ava and Aiden were heirlooms, not heartbeats. Miranda's text to friends. She's crumbling. Petitions a mercy. Expects handouts, but we know better. Know better. There's certainty in use, expecting my yield as tradition, the modest wife buckling under bullying's weight. They mocked in echoes, a neighbor's pitying, heard the in-laws are stepping in, good for the babies, as if my motherhood was a mishap to mitigate. Online forums buzzed. Hastrup widows toast. Unstable single mom versus dynasty? No contest. No contest. Their hubris. A house of cards I'd topple. I armored quiet. Clara's crisps for fuel. Her, Your queen material for fire. Rhea's dry runs, voice steady. They lead with sympathy, tear it with truth.
Truth.
The $400 million thunder, guardianship granite. But the eve of hearing? Sleepless vigil. Twins bundled in footy jammies, me pacing the 5-step circuit, while clutched like a grimoire. They expect the fold. I murmured to Daniel's photo on the shelf, his grin crooked, eyes alight. But folding's for paper tigers. This is power.
Power.
Stirring fortress, ready roar. The courtroom dawned bitter, December 23rd, a pre-Christmas purge in Suffolk County Family Court, fluorescent halls echoing with muffled sobs, the air stale with coffee and despair. I arrived early, bundled in Clara's wool coat, hers, too tight but warm. Twins and carriers strapped to my chest like badges of battle. Reyes met me at security, tall, silver-foxed in a pinstripe suit, briefcase heavy with the arsenal. Breathe, Jania. We're locked.
Locked.
His confidence a current, but nerves jittered, the twins' warmth grounding, Ava's fingers toying my necklace, Aiden's sigh against my collarbone. Clara waited outside, her hug fierce. Roar, baby. I've got the fort.
Fort.
The walk-up, our bastion. Inside, the gallery hummed low, reporters sketching on pads, pro bono allies nodding solidarity. Then they entered, the Hastrups, a phalanx of frost, Eleanor Regal in pearl gray Chanel, Miranda sleek in black wool, Harlan flanking with his tablet of torments, uncles in Brooks Brothers like backup chorus. Their eyes slid over me, dismissive, triumphant, whispers trailing. She looks ragged. This'll be quick.
Quick.
Their expectation, my faint. The chamber was a box of beige. Judge's bench elevated like judgment throne. Bailiff's gavel a silent sentinel. Rows of scarred oak pews. Judge Harlan, no relation, Reyes assured, but irony bit. Presided, 60s, wire rims, face etched with impartial weariness. Matter of Hastrup versus Hastrup, custody petition. Petition. The word weighted the air. Harlan rose first, voice oiled. Your Honor, petitioners seek temporary guardianship for minors Ava and Aiden. Respondents' circumstances, recent widowhood, financial strain, emotional distress, pose risks. Evidence. Affidavits of instability, substandard housing reports, DCF deferral pending escalation. Escalation. Their opener, sympathy as sword. Slides projected, walk-up photos circled red, unsafe stairs, bank stubs redacted to insolvency, nanny's tearful clip. She snapped once, yelled during a feed. Snapped. Grief gaslit, my black fury framed as frenzy. Eleanor testified next, poised porcelain. We grieve Daniel deeply, but the children, our blood, deserve stability. Jania's overwhelmed. We offer the family home. Resources unmatched. Resources. Their bribe, veiled as benevolence. Mockery laced their case. Miranda's testimony, eyes flicking to me with pitying curl. She's tried, God knows, but the pressure broke her. We've offered support. She resists. For the twins' sake. As if eviction was empathy, CPS their charity. Uncles chimed, legacy at stake, Hastrup name can't falter. Falter. Me, the fault line. The gallery murmured approval, reporters nodding, A spectator whispering, "Poor kids, Grandma's got it."
Got it.
Their confidence swelled. Harlan's close. Petitioners request immediate transfer. Respondent unfit, per evidence. Unfit. The word echoed their eviction snarl. Expecting my fold. The bullies win. Me shrinking as always under barbs and budgets. Reyes objected procedural, but the judge leaned. Response, counsel?
Response.
The turning point teetered. My pulse thunder. I rose then. Reyes not a cue. Voice steady as the will's ink. Your Honor, I speak for myself.
Speak.
The chamber hushed. Hastrup's smirks fading to curiosity, expecting pleas, not power. They call me unfit, unstable, a widow crumbling under pressure. Pressure. I echoed their word, tasting its lie. But Daniel Hastrup didn't build an empire by folding. He built it smart, protecting what mattered most.
Protect.
The air thickened. Eleanor shifted. Miranda's brow twitched. Months before his death, Daniel rewrote his will. Not with a family firm, but independent. To shield us from exactly this.
Exactly.
Harlan's face paled. I nodded to Reyes, who slid the envelope, sealed, notarized, to the bench. Read it, Your Honor. The truth. The judge cracked it, pages rustling like thunderclap. Silence fell, absolute, gallery leaning, reporters scribbling frenzy. To my wife, Jania Hastrup, the judge intoned, voice rising, I bequeath my entire personal estate, $400 million in assets, inclusive of stocks, patents, and controlling interests in Hastrup Dynamics subsidiaries. Irrevocable, sole beneficiary, no trusts, no reversals. 400 million. The number detonated, gasps rippling, reporters holy, and uncles choke. Eleanor's pearls clutched white-knuckled, Miranda's mouth agape, color draining to ash. Further, the judge continued, guardianship of our children, Ava and Aiden, vested exclusively in Jania, preemptive filings barring interference, with penalties for contests exceeding $10 million per claim. Penalties. The boomerang Daniel designed, their claws clipped. I spoke into the vacuum, voice reclaiming the room. They evicted us an hour after his funeral, suitcases in the rain, babies crying. Whispered unstable, filed lies to steal what's mine. But Daniel saw them coming. He left not just money, a fortress. For me, for our twins. Because he trusted me with our legacy, not blood or boardrooms. Legacy. The word boomed, Hastrup's fracturing. Eleanor's gasp theatrical, hand to throat. Miranda lunging forward. Objection. Forgery. But Reyes countered crisp. Authenticated, Your Honor. Reyes notarization. Notarization. Their forgery cry curdled to outrage. Harlan sputtering, this upends everything. Uncle's murmuring mutiny. Silence shattered to storm. Eleanor's impossible. A wail. Miranda's he wouldn't. She manipulated. Manipulation. Their mirror cracked. Outrage crested. Eleanor rising, voice shrill. This is theft. Our blood, our empire. Empire. Hers to hoard, now mine to helm. Miranda's eyes blazed. You gold digging. But the gavel cracked. Judge's glare steel. Order. Contempt risks. Risks. There's now the tables not just turned, torched. I stood taller. Twins, carriers a throne. I didn't fold then, and I won't now. Daniel chose me, his wife, their mother. The will stands, the guardianship holds. Mock me behind backs? Go ahead. But in truth's light, your cruelty crumbles. Crumbles. Reclamation raw, voice steady, dignity reclaimed, the courtroom my stage. Gallery erupted, reporters scrambling, whispers to Hastrup twist. The Hastrups deflated, Eleanor sinking, Miranda's seething silent, Harlan's tablet limp. The judge recessed, but the verdict hummed. Case dismissed, costs to petitioners. Outside, flashbulbs popped. Mrs. Hastrup, the inheritance? But I walked tall, Clara's hug waiting. Roared, Queen.
Roared.
The fortress freed, power revealed. They'd expected fold. I unfolded fate. Dear viewers, if you've ever tasted that sweet-sour rush of vindication, the air electric after a lifetime of slight snaps like a taut wire, spill it in the comments. What was your roar? The moment you claimed the room and rewrote the rules? Those triumphs? They're the anthems we hum when the night tries to quiet us. Let's hum this finale loud. The courthouse steps became a stage that December afternoon, snowflakes swirling like confetti in a coup, the winter sun slanting sharp off the granite facade. Reporters swarmed, a thicket of microphones thrust like spears, cameras whirring hungry for the scoop. Jania, the will. Did Daniel really cut out the family? Guardianship confirmed. Your response to the Hastrup's claims? I paused at the top, twins bundled warm against my chest, their soft breaths a steady drum under the chaos. Reyes flanked me, briefcase a shield. Clara hovered close, her arm a quiet anchor. No prepared statement, no gloating monologue for the lenses. Just truth, simple as breath. Daniel trusted me with our family, our future. Today, the court honored that. We're going home. Home. The word landed like a vow, cameras clicking frenzy as I descended, flashbulbs blooming white-hot. The Hastrups? They slunk out a side door. Eleanor's pearls a noose around her neck, Miranda's glare daggers dulled by defeat. Humiliated? Utterly. Their phalanx fracturing, Harlan's tablet clutched like a lifeline to a sinking ship. Aftermath unspooled swift and savage, the Hastrup's plots exposed like veins under a scalpel slice. By evening, the Globe's headline screamed, Hastrup widow's windfall, $400 million will stuns dynasty, custody bid crumbles. Details dripped like venom. The wills rewrite, Rhea's notarizations unearthed in probate filings, the anti-contest clauses that'd cost challengers millions in penalties. Media frenzy fed. CNN's evening slot dissected the secret fortune, pundits parsing Daniel's foresight against family entitlement. Their humiliation? A spectacle. Eleanor's gala canceled mid-planning, whispers at her bridge club turning to outright snubs. The matriarch who tried to steal her own grandkids? Miranda's venture deals iced, partners citing reputational risks in emails leaked to TechCrunch. Hastrup heiress's ethics questioned in custody scandal. Harlan? Sidelined from the firm, his merger's memo a footnote in Bloomberg. Legal eagle clipped by client's hidden will. Plots peeled layer by layer. The nanny's perjury exposed via Rhea's subpoena, a $50,000 consulting fee traced to Eleanor's account. Marcus's affidavit retracted under threat of fraud charges. CPS report? Retracted publicly, the state issuing a misguided filing apology, fingers pointing back to influential complainants. Influential. The Hastrup's empire, once unassailable, cracked under scrutiny, board seats wobbling, foundations probed for nepotistic grants. Exposed, not just greed, but the rot beneath, racial undercurrents in their instability claims, class barbs, and proper upbringing. A dynasty built on dismissal, now dismantled by one woman's stand. The fallout rippled personal, their humiliation a mirror to mine. Eviction's echo reversed. Eleanor's calls flooded my silenced phone, voicemails a cascade of contrition. Jania, darling, a misunderstanding. Let's talk for family.
Family.
As if blood bought back the hour in the rain. I deleted, unblocked none. Miranda's LinkedIn messages pinged desperate. We overstepped grief blinds. Coffee? Rebuild bridges. Rebuild. On whose terms? Harlan's firm sent a settlement overture, not custody now, but a gag order for $2 million to bury the hatchet.
Bury.
In my backyard, perhaps. I forwarded to Reyes. Counter with costs, let them bleed. They did. Judge's order slapping $250,000 in fees, a pittance to their vaults, but a public slap. Headlines crowing Dynasty Foot's widow's bill and blunder. Their confidence? Shattered glass, mocking turn to mortification at holiday soirees. The Hastrups who tried to orphan their own blood? Exposed plots fueled the fire. Anonymous leaks, Reyes artistry, unveiling Miranda's tip emails to CPS, Eleanor's witness payments. Humiliated, they retreated to the mansion shadows, empire eclipsed by the woman they'd cast as collateral. But triumph's sweetest edge? Watching the ghosts return, the former friends who'd abandoned ship at the first whisper, now crawling back with pleas polished as their apologies. It started trickle, then torrent. Inboxes bloating, DMs stinging like desperate doorbells. Lena first, the conference pal whose pity had soured to silence post-eviction. Jay, the news, wow. I had no idea. You're incredible. Brunch soon? My treat. Catch up on everything. Asterisk everything. Like her ghosting after the funeral, her tough times post implying I'd pushed away. I stared at the screen. Twins napping in the reclaimed brownstone nursery, thumb hovering delete. Catch up? On how her support evaporated when I needed a couch, not condolences. I typed, appreciate the reach out, Lena. Life's full, blessings. Blessings. Polite poison. The door cracked but chained. She doubled down. Come on, we were tight. The Hastrups? Monsters I always knew. Let me make it up. Make it up. With mimosas and memories? No, the abandonment stung fresh, her silence a complicity in the storm. The crawl escalated. A group chat revival from startup days, the girls who code thread dormant since my wedding glow-up. Jania. Saw the headlines, Queen move. We missed you. Virtual happy hour? Spill the tea.
Tea.
As if their missed you, erased the radio silence during motel nights, the ignored pleas for playdates when loneliness clawed. One, Sarah, the blonde from Boston panels who'd liked my maternity posts then vanished, dimmed private. I'm so sorry. Thought you were handling it, didn't want to intrude. But wow, that will? Empowering AF. Dinner on me with the twins? I've got stories. Stories. Of her brunches without invites, her thoughts and prayers, texts that went unanswered because pride pricked. I replied sparse. Thanks, Sarah. Busy reclaiming, rain check. Rain check. Eternal, like their loyalty. Desperate pleas piled. An old Atlanta sorority sister, voice memo trembling. Sis, the news hit hard. I froze, didn't know how to help. But you slayed. Call me? Let's celebrate your win. Celebrate. Over wine she'd never poured during the whispers? A college roommate, email novella. Forgive my silence? Grief blinded me too. The Hastrups sound awful. You deserve better. Babysit offer?
For old times.
Old times. When we'd crammed for finals, her now a suburban mom ignoring my reaching out pings. I archived, unfazed. There crawls a comedy of contrition, forgiveness begged with belated brunches, empowering, emojis masking the math. My rise, their redemption arc money revealed it raw. The $400 million flash turned ghosts to groupies, abandonment absolved by my ascent. I reflected in the brownstone's bay window, twins stacking blocks on the wool rug Daniel chose. For little architects, he'd quipped, their towers toppling in giggles. A crawler's back? Not for me. But the glow, the empires gleam a magnet for moths. I let them flutter, doors polite but locked. Miranda's beg came sharpest, a stiletto in the velvet. New Year's Eve, the brownstone aglow with string lights Clara helped string, twins in footy jammies chasing bubbles in the living room. My phone rang unknown, her voice, stripped of silk, raw as scraped knees.
Jania.
Please hear me out. Here. As if her hisses at the funeral merited audience. I cradled the receiver, Aiden on my hip gnawing a teether, Ava clapping bubbles to pop. What, Miranda? Petition withdrawn, case closed. Anything else?
Closed.
My tone the vault slamming. She exhaled shaky. The media, it's ruining us. Boards fracturing, deals drying. Mothers broken. We were wrong, grief twisted us. But the children, our blood. And you with everything. Help, alone, discreet. Against shares? For family. Family. The word curdled, her beg a beggar's bowl. Money now, not mercy then.
Loan.
Against the subsidiaries Daniel vested mine, her empire's edge, now my sword. I paced to the window, city lights twinkling like distant truths, Aiden's warmth a reminder of stakes. Family? I echoed, voice steel. You evicted us in an hour, suitcases in snow, babies crying. Filed lies to steal them, whispered unstable to shatter me.
Now?
Begging scraps from the woman you broke.
Broke.
Past tense, the fracture mended in Revelation's fire. She stammered. We panicked. Legacy at stake. Daniel, he'd want unity.
Unity.
Her lie, thin as holiday tinsel. Daniel wanted protection from you. The will, his shield. And me, I refuse. Refuse. The word a release, bubbles popping in Ava's glee a counterpoint. No loan, no lifeline. Rebuild your frost without my fire.
Frost.
Their legacy, glacial and grasping. She pleaded, Jania, please, the twins need their aunts, uncles. Don't punish us forever. Punish. as if justice was spite, not punishment, consequence. Learn from it. Goodbye, Miranda.
Goodbye. Click.
The line died, her silence a victory sweeter than the will's windfall. Refusal settled like snow dust, light but lasting, the beg's echo fading to clarity. Money revealed true character, the Hastrup's greed unmasked in pleas for loans, friends' abandonment flipped to fawning once the fortune flashed. Crawlers sought not me, but the gleam, Lena's brunch, a bid for borrowed shine, Sarah's stories, a stake in my story. But silence? It revealed loyalty's gold. Clara's casseroles through the siege, unwavering when I was broke. Auntie's delayed texts, steady in scarcity. Even the park mom who thawed, sharing wipes without ask. Silence as sieve, sifting snakes from steadfast. The empires stir a spotlight on souls. I reflected in the brownstones' quiet hours, twins Abed in their nursery, walls repainted sage by Clara's hands, mobiles spinning Daniel's elephants, the $400 million not chains but wings. Character. Hastrup's cruelty a caution, friends flip a lesson. Loyalty blooms in the barren, not the banquet. Broader tides turned in triumph's wake. The foundation Daniel seeded, now mine to helm, Hastrup Equity Fund, $50 million poured into black and brown founders. The underrepresented he amplified through me. First grant, Atlanta app for maternal health equity, echoing my stats shared nights. Media shifted from widow's woes to Hastrup heirs heist on dynasty, profiles praising my resilient rewrite. The brownstone bloomed, our home reclaimed, walls hung with Atlanta quilts beside his codex shelves, the kitchen alive with Clara's co-cooks, gumbo bubbling, twins in high chairs banging spoons like jazz. Triumph wasn't taunting, it was tending. Twins' first steps down the hall, my freelance firm sprouting. Rhea's retainer is a retainer for justice. Closing the circle, one spring dawn 6 months on, I watched from the glider, now in the sunlit nursery, elephants dancing lazy. Ava toddled after Bubbles, her curls wild as mine, popping them with squeals that echoed Daniel's laugh. Aiden stacked blocks into improbable towers, toppling them with a grin that crinkled his eyes just so. Stronger, freer, no whispers, no wants. They're worldwide, mine woven with wisdom. Daniel left me $400 million. But what he really left me was wisdom. Never mistake silence for weakness, and never underestimate the strength of a woman with nothing left to lose. The twins turned, Mama in unison, arms outstretched. I scooped them, bubbles bursting around us, the fortress not stone but spirit, unbreakable, unbound. And in that embrace, the story didn't end. It echoed, eternal.